this is wonderful and a true surprise for us to see this gym at capacity. Outside, there would be more than 200 other people who could not get in. Who are out there waiting. Trying to think of some way that we can communicate with the folks outside. I want to make sure that they feel the energy that we do right in here. So I'm going to begin with some important news, share that with you, see what you think about it, and then we'll see if they can hear us out there. The news is that we're going to win this election. You see it, you feel it, you're hearing it from folks in your life. I mean, you know, Democrats are more fired up than I've ever seen them in my lifetime in the state of Texas. Independents are coming over to our side. They want to make sure that we get away from this extremism of Greg Abbott. We got to tell you, so many wonderful Republicans have approached us and said, listen, Beto, never voted for a Democrat in my lifetime. But this idea that as a woman, I can't make my own decisions about my own body. They're going to come after me because they're transgender, or after 3 months almost since those 19 kids and those 2 teachers were shot down in that classroom, that we haven't done a thing to make it less likely that it happens in this next school year. They say, listen, we may not see eye to eye on everything, and no 2 people ever will. I've been married 17 years, I know that firsthand. But we can find enough common ground between us to get the job done and move this state forward in a far better direction. So I want to tell you, I want to begin right here. Republicans, you're in the right place. Independents, you're welcome here as well. Democrats, I'm glad you found a home in this gymnasium. We're going to do this for every single one of us. Find as much common ground together as we can possibly get, and then we're going to move forward. And we're going to support one another. And instead of beginning by talking about all the problems with the other guy, all the bad things that are happening, let me describe the folks that we're doing this for at the end of the day. And I'll begin with those who, for most of us, have transformed our lives and made almost everything that we do possible. And that's that teacher in the classroom, or that counselor in her office, or the librarian with all these interesting books that are unlocking windows and new windows for us. The bus driver, the cafeteria worker, the support staff, folks who make our public schools possible. At a time when public school education is under attack in this state, unlike any other time, at least in my lifetime. I'll be 50 in September. I've never seen it like this, where we're taking hand trucks into libraries and carting off books away from those extraordinary librarians who, believe it or not, did not get into the business for the fame or the glory or the money. But they get it to connect kids. They got into it to connect kids with a lifelong love of learning, stoking their curiosity and their passion for whatever it is that they want to pursue. That kid walks into that, there's no stopping them, and there's no stopping the rest of us by extension. Learning, as we drove in here today, that right here in Hunt County, the classroom teacher on average is underpaid by $12,000 a year against the national average. Not against the highest paid teacher in America. Just to get to bar, you're $12,000 down a year. No wonder so many of you are working a second or a third job. You don't do it for kids. It's not for spending cash. It's to meet the note on the mortgage, to put food on the table, to fill that prescription. You retired teachers who gave the best years of your lives to these kids in this community, my heroes. You have not seen a cost of living adjustment since the year of our Lord 2004. Though your costs have gone up every single year, especially this last one. And not everyone knows this, the retired teachers do, but for everybody else's benefit, there's something called the Windfall Elimination Provision, or the WEP. And if you haven't heard of this, just check this out. What it says is that in addition to your public service in the classroom, in that library, in that counselor's office, you also worked in the private sector, paid into Social Security every quarter, just as everyone else in this state and country does. We're going to punish you and not allow you to receive back the earned benefit you paid into almost your entire life. Now look, we've got an amazing research team on this campaign. We're trying to figure out why that was ever passed into law in the first place. Best that we can come up with is that the people of Texas were sick and tired of how filthy rich retired teachers were becoming in this state. Those mansions that they were living on up on the hill, lighting $100 bills on fire in front of our faces to taunt us. We said, no more. No, there's far more that we can do for those who make what we want to achieve in our lives, and especially our kids and our grandkids in their lives, possible. Here's some ideas that I've heard from you. And I'll start with, though it doesn't solve every problem, it's pretty damn important, and that's the money that we spend on our schools. Not only will we stop Greg Abbott's effort to turn your tax dollars into vouchers and send them to a private school away from your classroom, we're also going to invest that so that every teacher is paid so that she doesn't have to work that second or third job, and she can just focus on the most important job in that classroom or in that school. We're going to raise the cost of living adjustment every single year for these retired teachers so they don't have to work into their retirement as well. See what we can do about getting rid of that government EP. But there's more than money. And what I've heard from you time and again is the word respect. Hey Beto, I took on tens of thousands of dollars of debt for the privilege of being in this classroom, working this second or third job. Out of my own pocket, as the school year starts, I'm going to decorate that classroom. And when the kid shows up on free and reduced breakfast and lunch and does not have any dinner to go home to, no calories to burn as they're doing that homework assignment that I gave them, I'm going to make sure that I pay for that meal myself. I may even pay for a new set of clothes for the kid on the first week of school who shows up in the same dirty jeans Monday through Friday. I can tell he's a little ashamed, a little embarrassed. I want him to be able to hold his head high, be treated with dignity by his fellow students, so I'll pay for that as well. So when you ask to be treated with respect, I just want you to know that I'm hearing you, and also want to follow the guidance that you've laid down. After 2 years of pandemic, 2 years of learning loss, 2 years where many of these kids have lost a grandparent, or their folks may have lost their job, or they may have lost their home at the beginning of that recession in 2020. They've been through some trauma, and they're having a hard time reconnecting now that they're back in the classrooms. You told me, hey Beto, let me connect with that kid. Let me keep her alive literally right now. She's going through some really difficult things. Last thing I need, you've told me, is a high stakes, high pressure standardized test. So we're gonna cancel the STAR test in the state.
Good. Thanks, Bob.
I've got this amazing guy who works on my campaign, whose name is Danny, and whose son's name is Joseph. And they've just been working their tails off to make sure that we connect with people across North Texas. Well, there's a gentleman outside who couldn't get in today, who came up to shake my hand. He said, look, Beto, you guys are at capacity. They're not letting anybody else in. I just want to shake your hand and just tell you how grateful I am for what you're doing. And I said, I want to tell you, sir, how grateful I am to you. This guy's a Vietnam-era veteran. I can tell by the cap that he's wearing. And I think about this guy who came home from a war that this country never fully understood, and came back to communities that didn't offer ticker tape parades or pats on the back or thank you for your service. Very often, at best, it was indifference. At worst, it was indignity. Sometimes the outright hatred of his fellow Americans. And yet he came back to Greenville, put his head down, raised his family, got to work, built up this community even better than when he found it upon his return. And now he is first in line advocating for this generation of veterans that's coming home today. You all have heard about these toxic burn pits that our Iraq, Afghanistan veterans are exposed to. Literally, God only knows what they were inhaling in their lungs. We were burning medical waste, we were burning computer equipment, we were burning chemicals and toxins, and you've seen these pictures of veterans in the bulldozers, bulldozing this stuff in as they're inhaling just volumes of this smoke into their lungs. Well, now they're back here in Hunt County. They're back in our communities, they're back in our country, and they can't breathe, literally, and they're asking for some help. You know what? It's that Vietnam-era veteran who stepped up and said, when I came back and was exposed to Agent Orange, it took this country 40 years, 4 decades, to treat my exposure to that toxin as the presumptive condition for the cancers that are consuming me and that so many with whom I serve have died from already. We're not going to wait 40 years for you, right? So they prevailed upon the members of Congress to pass something that's going to ensure that we connect more veterans with that care. We're going to follow their lead in Texas by standing up a toxic burn pit registry to make sure that no veteran is left behind.
Yeah.
We're going to